Displays have been fighting the same war for decades. More pixels, brighter colors, higher refresh rate. Samsung, Bowie and LG control about 75% of the market, and they have huge R&D spendings. They're spending billions on that. It's a war. As a newcomer, you just cannot win. But one company decided to enter that battlefield, and their strategy was less pixel, just black and white or colors that literally look like from a colored pencil, and refresh rate that is slower than like old tube TVs. It sounds like a completely insane idea until you realize what I just described is literally the display inside the Kindle. They created a category of one. They're not competing with Samsung and those likes. They're just making more stuff that used to be printed accessible on a screen. But here's the crazy question. What if a company decided deliberately to be worse in any of those three categories, and even the category that the Kindle is dominating? To understand why, this is exactly what the company I'm talking about today is doing. To grasp the potential payoff, we have to go back to the history of how those manufacturers grew. CRT, cathode ray tubes. They enable black and white TVs, totally changing the way how we consume information in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. In the US, this was dominated by RCA, which was acquired by General Electric for $6.28 billion in 1985. Until then, all big mergers were from the oil and gas industry. That just was the biggest there was. But screens dethroned them from that category. They became the biggest empires at that time. Then plasma and LCD become viable in the 2000s. This brought us smaller and better screens, also providing us with portable devices that had screens that kind of looked cool, not just those yellowish ones. And now with the LEDs and the OLEDs, we have the technology that powers our TVs, our phones, our smartwatches, iPads, whatever. This whole screen revolution brought up the giant Samsung. They turned from a small screen manufacturer into a tech empire worth over $400 billion US. But in 2010, something interesting happened. A company decided to enter that market where the big players are spending billions every year on improving those stats, and they deliberately scored worse on any of the categories. But they introduced a new category, and that was their big success. They turned reading on a screen into something that somehow felt like reading on paper, the so-called paper white. And with that, they expanded the scope of reading on displays can mean. They're kind of just getting a new vertical what screens can do. And this changes how we read. This enables products like the Kindle, or in Europe, the Tolino, the e-readers, where you don't have to carry around physical books anymore, and just have all that information displayed way more accessible and appropriate for the digital age. By conquering that one category of one, they turned their small business into something worth over $7 billion US in a market where there's just three companies having almost the whole market share. That is possible if you get one great product in the marketplace. This leads us to the natural question, what if we would build displays that even scored lower in all those known categories that we have right now, but maybe enable a new vertical? What kind of new applications could that bring up? And this actually could, for example, change the whole business of the big industry of logistics. E-ink makes displays that are already a good amount cheaper than what we've got in our phones. Picture a massive warehouse, thousands of identically looking boxes, but each of them has unique information that you just cannot see from the outside. Where did it come from? Where does it go next? Or does it have to be shipped backwards? Tons of information you cannot see from the outside. Think about a box in a warehouse. It just stands there, but there's lots of information connected with this. And all of that basically is invisible. You have a QR code there, but then you have to get out your phone, you have to scan it in order to see that information. This already is a big step. At the beginning, we had sticky notes, right? So you would write that on there tag it on it, but you can't automate that. But are those QR codes really the best way of accessing all the information that is connected to those boxes? In theory, you could put a display on those boxes, right? I mean, you could put a display like this here on it. Cheapest version with like current production lines, probably around like $30 or something. But let's not even think of how they break. We know it all from our phones. They tend to break if they fall around. $30 for a cardboard box, that kind of only makes sense if you're transporting like gold or something in it. It just doesn't make sense to put that on a box where what you're carrying is worth a fraction of that. For e-ink, it might be possible to produce it for like $3, a tenth of the price. But still, this is still pretty expensive for massware, right? You don't want to put that everywhere for that price. But imagine like what could be possible if you could print displays on basically everything and make that for like 30 cents or even cheaper in the future. Below 30 cents changes everything. You now can put a screen on a box or anything else, or medical devices, whatever. This makes it possible to go from digital to digital plus visual, to have all the pros from sticky notes we started out with, plus the digital information age. And it's foldable. And if you hit it, it's not gonna be destroyed, but it's flexible like paper. One amazing aspect of making those like really low resolution screens is that they only use energy to change the picture, but not to display it. This makes it ultra low power.
Now, Ynvisible Interactive is quietly leading a revolution in how we think about displays. With printed, flexible, ultra-low-power e-paper screens that could power the future of smart labels, retail signage, medical diagnostics, and more.
There's just limitless amount of data points that are just waiting to be visualized, right? Who would have thought of an e-reader, iPad, MacBook, phones, whatever before? Sure, disclaimer, I'm Andy. Here I'm just sharing my personal insights on early stage investments. Nothing what I'm saying here is financial advice or something. Stock investment is risky. You can lose everything, especially in early stage company. This is what I'm personally most interested in, because this is where you can get the huge payoffs. But please don't rely on me. Do your own research. And I'm compensated for doing this video. I'm doing this together with the MK Investment Conference. I'm not paid by the company itself. I think you should still know that. And I personally own shares in this company, so I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out in the future. Let's get back to the video. Each innovation in this place always brought a big amount of use cases with them. Some replaced their predecessors. Some are additive. Like e-ink, they didn't replace the iPhone, right? They just gave me an additional display where I can consume my books. For some people, they might have replaced normal paper, but they didn't replace the other screens. They're just expanding the amount of information that is displayed in general on screens. And like e-ink, compared to the other displays, what Ynvisible is doing, their screens are additive. So they're not competing with those screens, because they will never replace a screen in your phone or in your ebook reader. It's just not high resolution enough for it. But it can bring displays to places where there are no displays right now. And there's already a few use cases that we figured out how to utilize this new tech. So, for example, digital e-paper road signs, or sustainable fashion with digital price labels, or gas station fuel pricing signs.
We explored electrophoretic e-paper, which was prohibitively expensive. Reflective LCDs failed in sunlight legibility and were too bulky, while LED solutions consumed too much power.
Right. So you put a screen on your wrist, you put a screen in your pocket, but you can't put a screen on a package that goes through the supply chain. How do you put a screen on a medical device that is currently using analog? So we are broadening the definition of how do you put a screen on everyday objects.
I guess I made the point that the upside for that kind of company that is able to bring a new kind of display into the market is huge. Right? So let's look at how Ynvisible is positioned to actually be one of those companies that is leading a new revolution and a new generation of displays and products powered by those displays. Here's their backstory. Founded in Lisbon in 2010, the dream is to make everyday print come alive. For years, Ynvisible survives by selling research contracts and prototypes, not products. They're licensing core display IP and securing their technological moat. Around the same time, they do an acquisition in Sweden, and with that, they acquire the roll-to-roll manufacturing know-how.
The manufacturing is somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times harder than making a prototype.
Whoa.
So in order to get that next important milestone done, stopping with prototyping, but starting with big manufacturing, they get in somebody special. In 2022, they bring in Ramin Haidapur. He has one job: move Ynvisible from science to scale, execute on what he learned from his prior stations in life. Ramin scaled EMS chemie sales by 4x from 2.6 million to over 10 million in just 2 years. So he proved rapid commercial growth execution. He industrialized Tetra Pak's first global film lines in Mexico and India. So he got the expertise in taking new tech to mass production. He led a 100+ people global R&D team at Avery Dennison and delivering patent protected products. He knows how to build end-to-end innovation engines at scale. And he is the founder of Flex R&D, which is a consulting company for flexible electronics and packaging, where he is guiding companies with know-how in moving lab innovation to market. Now, powering with all the knowledge Ynvisible's transition into a production powerhouse. Since he's there, he delivers. They did 25,000 outdoor signs for Italian gas stations, industrial maintenance timers for Europe, indicators for at-home medical tests, wanted its way through the FDA review, which is big if you land in such a product line. If you are in the product line, you are in that product until the product fades out. So now actually, product sales are more revenue than R&D products. He just moved the company into a new factory in Sweden, making sure that they can deliver on their customers' orders. So this is a very big for the scale up. But to get the budget from billion-dollar companies, that factory definitely is not enough. They need a different size. Infrastructure that needs tens of millions, if not even hundreds of millions investment. Therefore, the partnership they closed this year is huge. So they announced the following headlines. CCL Design and Ynvisible announced strategic partnership to deliver scalable printed display solutions. And I guess important fact to that, CCL Industries is the largest label company in the world. Yeah, he closed a partnership with CCL Design. So for the first time now, Ynvisible has access to global manufacturing. This is exactly what billion-dollar companies want to have. And it's not only about the manufacturing, but actually about then delivering and being able to do the size and everything that just comes with it if you want to deliver at massive scale. And this way, they have access to this big network without the billions of investments in own factories. So let's translate how all of this kind of translates through my personal lens as an investor. So let's look at their most important milestones, so product milestones. First, R&D contracts. Yeah, somebody believes you have an interesting idea. 2010, they did that. That's how they did most of their revenue. Then MVP, prove that technology is working. 2020, they did that with the licensing of the IP from Rice Sweden and with the acquisition that they did. So they proved technology works at a pilot scale. Product market fit. Somebody's willing to pay for it. In 2021, they started with commercial orders. So that means companies are now actually paying for a standardized product. This is very important. And fourth, product sales is bigger than the R&D. We also achieved this, actually, I think in 2023 for the first time. There we had 54% of the revenue from product sales and not from research. Now, product market fit for big boys that actually huge companies want to buy it because like we're in a sector where we want to go into big numbers of production. This is ongoing, but awesome progress with the partnership with CCL, because like, I mean, they're not gonna announce this on their own channel if they don't think that this has big potential. So that was the product milestones. Let's look at the economic milestones. First customer with a lifetime value bigger than 0. So both R&D products are gross profit positive in 2025. So we are fine with that. Then they make more money with the customers than they actually pay to acquire new customers. So you want to spend less on marketing than you actually make with the customers that you get from that, right? Here the dynamics are important. Like, I don't know if they've already checked that mark or not, but they have a high cost for customer acquisition right now. But if you think about that, if you get into a product line, for example, for like medical diagnostics, those are sold on such a big scale, and this is really, really long revenue. So if you get into those product cycles, you can spend a lot to end up there, and you're still gonna make big amount of money with that. So it's first use cases, and if they've proven the first ones, it's gonna be way, way easier to get in many, many more products. Because obviously, if they do that with the one product line from a big pharmaceutical company, why wouldn't they roll that out to lots of other product lines that they have if it worked out well for them, right? So a customer acquisition costs are gonna get way, way cheaper in the future. And with the CCL partnership, customer acquisition cost for that kind of channel is also pretty nice. And with CCL, I mean, if CCL brings clients, right, then customer acquisition cost is 0, and they got pretty good clients. So we can see with CCL, customer acquisition cost basically is 0, right? They bring the customers, they do everything, and Ynvisible, they just get their licensing revenues. So this brings huge optionality into the company. Big optionality if you think about what kind of clients they have.
CCL?
Yeah, like both parts. I mean, how much? I assume like this could be a big part, like, of the future.
It's huge, because goes back to what Musk says, that manufacturing is 100 to 1,000 times harder than prototyping. What CCL brings to us is manufacturing expertise, the idiot factor expertise. They are really good at taking out costs. So they do what Musk did with Rocket One. They know how to take the raw materials and take cost out of it in production. They are better than us. They are probably one of the best in printed electronics globally. They have the know-how, and they have the global footprint. They can produce our displays in China, Europe, US. We have transferred the technology. They have the equipment. They have the expertise. They bring credibility. Someone like General Motors or Walmart is not going to buy from Ynvisible Sweden. Used to be at one factory, we're too small. They have to buy from someone that has the supply chain and the manufacturing expertise. So what it brings for us is manufacturing expertise, global footprint, and credibility. We don't have to qualify ourselves at, Walmart or Amazon. They're already selling to them. So they sell our product as Ynvisible. So we sell to them as Ynvisible. So think of them as Foxconn for Apple. They are our manufacturing partners. So that brings a lot of manufacturing know-how. So we are very successful at product development, custom manufacturing that we are doing for our customers from our Sweden manufacturing. So we can make 500,000 unit, 1 million unit, 2 million units. And for some of our customers, that's great that we're currently selling to. But if we are to sell, somebody places an order for 50 million units in December, we will need someone like CCL to it's not only around production, it's around raw material procurement, manufacturing processes, and distribution. How do you get 50 million labels, packages, and how do you deal with, reliability, returns, etc. So being a small company, we are using CCL's manufacturing know-how to reach big customers to commercialize faster. Not only that, they have licensed our technology that they're going to sell to their customers. So they have a lot of customers in, they sell all the parts to Apple, Samsung, Google, all the phone parts. So they have existing customers that they're going to sell our technology to.
And you get licensed revenues.
Yes, we get license revenues. And as important as license revenues, they're going to sell it to them as invisible technology. And we can point to that as a use case. So if we are doing a medical diagnostic with customer A, they're going to sell medical diagnostic to another customer, and we can use that as our use case. So CCL brings two things for us. Scaling expertise and scaling manufacturing, and access to a lot of customers that we don't have access to. So what you were talking about, this cost of customer acquisition, is nothing for us because they're doing it. But those customer acquisitions will prove the use case for us. So customer acquisition for us is not only customer acquisition, but use case validation. If CCL sells a product to Volkswagen for a Volkswagen part, that's a wonderful use case validation for us. So we take that cost and we can go to the next automotive guy and say, this is our technology, we can do this for you.
Now, back to the dynamics of the financials of the company. So to understand this, we have to look at the most recent financials. In Q2 2025, their gross profit margin was around 30%. This is what I'm going to assume that they'll be able to keep, especially if they ramp up production. So I don't think it's going to go down, because obviously if they produce more, they're going to get better at that. And then for this, actually cost goes down. Yearly revenue in 2024 was 1 million. Their fixed costs were roughly at 5.1 million. So at that 30% margin cost, we'd arrive at roughly 17 million in revenue that's needed for the break even.
Revenue with our current gross profit, which I can't share with you. But at 17 million Canadian, with our current gross margin, we are at break even.
What has to happen that you can get those 17?
We need to deliver on big applications. We need the big use cases that we have, like medical diagnostic, which we are working on, have to scale. So the medical diagnostic is coming in, and so the projections for those, it's easily that. So just with one medical diagnostic customer by 2027, once they deliver on that potential, we are there. And we are working with 2, 3, and they're sustainable revenues. They're repeatable revenues. So although our customer acquisition, especially for new use cases, may be high, the return on investment is high also, because it's sustainable revenue. Because now we are spec'd in a product. So it's as long as that, for the duration of that product's lifetime, we will supply that product. So what we need is to deliver on these use cases that we have already commercialized. So for the industrial label application, it's 300,000 euro per year. It's one application. If we get a couple of more of those customers, you can just add the numbers. So with the one industrial guy that I have is 350. For the medical diagnostic, you're talking about 10 to 20 million annual revenue per platform. So we need a breakaway applications. And we think, so if you look at E8 with Kindle, they just blew it out of the ballpark. Our medical diagnostic customer talks about $50 to $100 million worth of screens from a steady state. Their first case is 10 million.
How much additional investment they need if they want to get to that break-even milestone, or to any other of the big growth milestones that they have? Because we all know factories are not cheap to build. With that factory alone, even if CCL does not doesn't do anything, you could get with that factory 70 million. Okay.
Yes, and we can expand on that. So today we can We can, depending on the product mix, we can do that on that with that factory alone easily, up to 20 million. But for us, that's a modular factory. We can always add additional equipment. We can do that.
Going through all that history of displays and understanding the dynamics of that was really, really fun to me. So especially understanding that there is like different lines of displays that are additive. For example, like e-ink is not competing with what I've got here in my phone, but they are just broadening the information that are displayable in an economic way. And I think Ynvisible definitely has the potential to get a new vertical of data that currently is hidden to be visualized in real life. So I'm really, really excited to see where we're going to see this pop up in the future.